I'm deeply, truly honored to be here this evening. And I was actually speaking to my mother earlier on today, and I just told her, I said, Mommy, I will be speaking at a Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship 31 years ago when she joined the GRA Onitsha chapter. I was her handbag. She always carried me for those meetings, and we went for them together every time when she moved from Onitsha to Benin, and all the way. Little did I know that 31 years later, I am going to have the very, very rare privilege of speaking to amazing gentlemen and amazing women, and I do not take this platform for granted. I thank you for having invited me, and I trust that we're going to have an amazing experience, a mind unveiling experience, a repositioning experience that will move us, not just mentally, but propel us physically from where we are to where we utmostly desire to be. I welcome everybody here and thank you for your attention tonight. And please send in questions. I trust and I hope that if at any point you have a question to ask, there would be a place where those questions will be, and then I'll be glad to give my contributions and give my perspective, and I use perspective carefully, to whatever questions may arise this evening. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I welcome you to this amazing evening that is not going to repeat itself again, because after this evening is gone, we're only going to have another one, and it's only going to move from leaps to bounds. I am Stephanie Kadiri. I love to be called Steph Red. Nothing particular. People say, why Steph Red? Really because red happens to be my favorite color, and I just wanted to ensure that it was attached to my name. So that's where Steph Red came from. I have a master's in French, and yes, I speak French fluently. I worked a day job for about 13 years, 9 of which was in human resources, 9 close to 10 pretty much across Nigeria, Cameroon, and Ghana. Human resource professional years, all the certificates, global, international, certified life coach, certified emotional intelligence practitioner, certified cognitive behavioral therapy practitioner, all that. But my passion has pretty much always been training and speaking and helping people identify the center that God has put in them so that they can give that center effectively to the world that God has called them to impact. I strongly believe that my calling is in the area of communication, where I pretty much communicate to increase awareness, to influence, to impact behavior, and then also to impact change. And like I said, my mantra really is impossibility is nothing. So because impossibility is nothing, I see impossibility as I am possible. So because I believe that I am possible within the capacity that God has given up to life. So regardless of the challenges that come, regardless of the storms that hit, I can remember that because all things work together for the good of them that have been called by his purpose, I like to tweak that to say, because I am in God's purpose and because I have been called, I can never be disadvantaged. So whether good comes or bad comes, I will not give up until I win for the purpose for which I have been called. And that is pretty much what drives me with the things I do, with how I commit myself. And you can find out more about me on my website at stephred.com. So just a bit of an icebreaker this evening. What do you see? Let me just be sure. What do you see? I'd like you just type it up and type it into the chat room. Tell me exactly what you see. Don't overthink it. The first thing you see, you just type it in. I will be in the chat room waiting. Just typing the first word, the first thing that you see, without overthinking it, without over-processing it. What do you see? I'm waiting in the chat room. Nobody has sent anything yet. What do you see? A rabbit head, somebody said. What do you see? What do you see? Somebody saw a rabbit head. Another person said a rabbit. Somebody says a bird. Another said a rabbit. Somebody says rabbit and a bird. Yeah. And a bird. What kind of bird precisely? Can you be precise with the kind of bird that you're talking about? A bird mouth, a duck head, rabbit head. Okay. Is it a bird you actually see? What kind of bird do you see? A duck head. Okay. Rabbit and bin. Oh, fantastic. Okay. I like that. Okay, we're seeing differently. Okay, now tell me, what do you see here? What do you see here? Type it in. What do you see? Do you see an old woman or do you see a young girl? a young maiden. Which do you see? A young maiden or an old woman? A young lady, okay, an old woman, okay, a posh lady in a fur coat. I like that. A young lady, okay. Who sees the young lady and the old woman? If you see the young lady and the old woman, please just, you see them there. You didn't see anyone at all. If you don't see anyone, let me see. Who doesn't see anyone? You see the, if you see the young lady and you don't see the old woman, or if you see the old woman and you don't see the lady, please let me know. Or if you don't see anyone at all, you're just wondering what's this picture about. Oh, now I see both. Stella says, now I see both. You were looking for it before. Okay, amazing. I see the young lady and the old woman. I say, okay, many people are seeing both. Some are just getting to see. Thank you so much. Thank you for your feedback. So I took us through this pretty much to tell us that perspectives differ. So who is right between these two people? Who is right? Who is right? Who is
The
right?
old woman.
Chat, tell me, who is right really? Who's right between them? Both of them are right.
Well done.
Is that what you're saying? Are both of them right? Type in. Who is right? The person that says 6 or the person that says 9? Who is right? Okay. All right. Now, this is where it is very interesting. I'm loving all your feedback. I'm loving everything you're saying. Thank you so much for. Okay, whether 6 or 9, both are seeing from perspectives. Thank you very much. I like that, and I'm just going to take it on from there. That pretty much it's not always about whatsoever you hear is an opinion, not a fact, and whatsoever you see is a perspective, not necessarily a truth, because the truth can oftentimes be subjective to your position, to your perspective, and your previous directives. It's always subject, what you call the truth. That's why I have one of my senior colleagues likes to say that what all you know is not all that there is to know, and many things that you think you know are not always so. So how do you come to that place of constantly reinventing yourself, which is what we're going to be talking a lot about today, constantly reinventing yourself so that you keep getting fresh with what you know, with the understanding of perceptions, with the understanding of perspectives, being able to change your position and see differently so that you can engage yourself differently. Okay. So I would like to ask the question, what did you spend your 2020 doing? What did you spend your 2020 doing? Did you spend it bonding with your family, or did you spend it relaxing? Or did you spend it rejuvenating from all the stress, or resting during the lockdown? I'm trying to be precise, during the lockdown, or did you spend it in a time of uncertainty? Who's going to tell me what they spent their lockdown doing? Just type it in quickly. What did you spend your lockdown doing? Bonding and reading. Fantastic. Bonding and reading. Oh, interesting. What else? Who else? What did you spend your lockdown doing? Was it a time of bonding, relaxing, rejuvenating, resting, or uncertainty? Personal development, bonding and developing a new business. Interesting. Now, the reason I ask this is because looking for money, with binoculars, with spectacles, creating new products. Interesting. Creating new products. Keep it coming. Now, when the lockdown hit in March 2020, one of the things I started doing, I just Googled, Google is your friend, to find out what previous lockdowns were like. Spiritual download, awesome. Reflecting, appreciating God more. And I found out that it was in the time of the lockdown between 1665 and 1666 that Isaac Newton recalibrated and developed and discovered the law of gravity and optics and all those other things that he discovered. It was in that time of lockdown. It was in that time of nobody go anywhere. And what hit me then was, it depends on how we choose to look at the glass. Do we choose to look at it half full, or do we choose to look at it half empty? How are we going to judge this situation and not judge it in such a way that it would define us, but instead we can reinvent ourselves and find out how else we can apply ourselves so that we can give that self that we have discovered to our world? Yeah. So that's pretty much where I want us to put our minds. Because another thing is that in the course of the lockdown, possibly before the lockdown, we were all on a hamster wheel. Everybody, like someone said, we're looking for money. That money, we've been looking for it since even before the lockdown, right? We're just doing things, particularly those in Lagos. Those in Lagos, you know what Lagos is like. You wake up in the morning, it's a rat race. You have to beat traffic. If you know you're coming from a traffic prone area, you wake up, probably you had gotten home by 11 p.m. and then you finally go to sleep at about past 12 midnight. And then you have to wake up by 3 a.m. so that you can prepare to leave the house by 4 a.m. because if 4:30 meets you, you are going to be late for work. That used to be my story. So I just gave you my narrative, right? So you have to leave the house and then you go through the traffic, get to work. And for the first 2 hours, you're trying to get yourself, you're trying to wake up, right? And then it's just that, but then it's the hamster wheel. And then we're pretty much trapped in a routine without asking, why are we running? Where are we running to? And how long are we going to keep running? And how fast do we need to keep running? Or how fast do we need to run? Pretty much, because the ability to understand where you are going to will help you know what you need to do to arrive there in the best possible time. So take, for example, we're traveling to Ore. And then we know that Ore to Lagos, about once upon a time, it used to be 3 hours. Right now, it's only God knows how long. But then Ore, we're trying to Lagos to Benin, I beg your pardon. And Ore is a standard stop. We'll get our bushmeat soup and get all the groundnuts and bananas that we need to get. The thing now is, I need to get to Benin by so o'clock. Why do I need to get to Benin? Because I need to do this, that, and the other. So I know where I'm going. I know why I'm going there. How long is it going to take me to get there? How fast do I need to move to get there in the time that I want to get there? So these are the things that we have to be able to do now, not physical, not pretty much locations now and positions, but talking about using this actually for our lives. Where are we going as human beings? What are we chasing after? When we get to the age of 80 and 90, what is it that we want to have achieved that we have been running for? So the where you are going is probably when you are 80, 90, or whenever it is, Lord giving us life. So how fast do you need to run to achieve it before that time or by that time? How long are you going to be running? At what point would you probably stop to take some banana in Ore and eat groundnut with it or drink some pure water before you get back on the bus? As against just being trapped in a routine without possibly knowing what we are being trapped with or what we're trapped at. And the interesting thing now is, talking about running, you have to know why you are running. The why is the most important. Because if you don't know why you're running, you won't know the exact tools to use for it. You have to define your chase before you begin the race. Many times we don't realize that we have been programmed. Programming, the moment a baby is born, the baby's programming starts. So you're being programmed by sight, sounds, and experiences. We have become, who we have become is a function of what we have constantly heard, what we have constantly seen, or what we have experienced in the different environments that have shaped our lives. So because of those unconscious programming, many of us are on auto run. We have not checked to know why we do the things we do. We have not checked to know why immediately after school, the first thing as a woman you want to think of is marry quick before 30 years reaches you. The first thing you want to think of as a guy is get a job and you need to make money, right? Such that when you are engaging yourself with an understanding, giving yourself to something that you are willing to live for. And if death comes, you are willing to die for. Why? Because you understand why you are running. So you are running for a cause, you are running for a purpose. So you have defined your chase. And no matter what comes or goes, you know I am running and I am fixed on this lane because I see an end. And it is for the end I live. It is for that end I die. Right? So define your chase. Is it a quick dash or is it a marathon? These days, particularly with the rise of social media and how it is moving in leaps and bounds, we seem to easily be pressured by what is happening for someone else, or by what is going on somewhere else, or by what someone else is experiencing or embracing, forgetting that we have individual races. Let every man work out his own salvation with fear and trembling. In the same way, work out your own purpose with fear and trembling. Another man's race is not your race. One person may be running a quick dash. Your race may be a marathon. If you're not careful, you will want to use the person's skill to judge yourself, forgetting that he who runs a quick dash requires speed and muscles. And he who runs a marathon requires stamina and being very light, so that it will get to a point where it's the wind that is moving you. So if you get on your marathon and you want to run like the person on a quick dash, you want to make it to the destination you are getting to, because you are judging yourself through someone else's lenses. So in the middle of all of that, how do we, when we spend so much time before the interruption of the COVID-19, I don't have time, I'm busy doing this, I'm trapped in this, I'm not now, I'll do that later, and all of that. And I will see what I can do. Probably let me just finish this thing I need to do. So much activity, so much business, and then there is a disruption that shakes many people to the core of their existence, that literally takes the carpet off the ground on which many people stood. The disruption of the COVID-19. And it made many people lost themselves. Many people began to second guess themselves. Many people lost their balance. It was now a thing of, how do I find my balance again? How do I position myself? Many people lost jobs. Many people lost loved ones. Anxiety and fear were the order of the day. People were praying in fear, not in faith. People were now so broken down by the unknown, such that the willingness to even want to try was difficult for many, because they are not sure whether someone is writing on my screen, because they are not sure what is going to work, if it will work. What's the point trying? How am I sure another pandemic will not come and mess things up for me? The expectations before top skills that were talked about in 2020 were complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, self-orientation, negotiation, and cognitive flexibility. These were the top 10 skills that World Economic Forum had predicted before 2020, but they didn't predict that there was going to be COVID. And then COVID came, and this actually almost became almost like it didn't touch the surface, because much more is now required for the future. The job landscape right now, look at emerging 10 jobs: data analysis, analysts and scientists, AI, machine learning specialists, general and operation managers, software and application developers and analysts, sales and marketing professionals, big data specialists, digital transformation specialists, new technology specialists, organizational developments, and all of this. This is just a few. It changes. This is 2021. As at now, it has already changed. See the declining ones: data entry, accounting, bookkeeping, business service administrator, accountants, auditors. So it should make us get to the point to think, how can I remain relevant in the thing that I have been called to, regardless of times and seasons? And every time I like to use the analogy of pure water. No, let's start from ice water. Ice water, ice water of those days, inside blue bucket with iron cup and nylon bag that they pour inside. If ice water had foresight, ice water would have seen the evolution of pure water, sachet water. And sachet water would have seen the evolution of bottled water. And bottled water would have seen the evolution. I hear there's one that now says even water will be jealous. So the question is, how well are we positioning ourselves such that we will still be relevant to our world in the next 10, 20, 25 years from now? For as long as you still have the strength and the vigor in your youth to engage yourself and to impact your world. How are you ensuring that you are constantly walking the path of self-development, self-improvement in your area, in your specific area of gifting? No, I beg your pardon. One of the things I discovered in the course of lockdown, I'm pretty much nocturnal, so I read in the wee hours. That is when I get the downloads, right? And I was studying about the human identity pretty much, and I stumbled on this quote by Albert Einstein that said that there is a genius in every human being. But if you judge a fish ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing that it is stupid. And so my question now was, how frequently, how so frequently do we live stupid lives simply because we are judging ourselves, rating ourselves, and equating ourselves through someone else's lenses, and forgetting that he that created us has made us kings and priests on this earth, has made us as gods on this earth. But then we forget the genius that he has given us, and then we begin to operate lesser than who we have been called to be. How do we now ensure that we come to that place where we are functioning in the power of our ability? Now, with everything that has happened, there is a new normal. Okay, someone says following, okay. Someone is writing on the screen, please. It's a bit distracting. It's a bit distracting. I can't clean it off. I'd appreciate if that can be taken off. Thank you. There's a new normal. How do we now still show up strong? This is evolution, an evolution that we possibly didn't expect because nobody saw COVID-19 coming. But that evolved from what used to be normal. There was an evolution from what used to be normal to what is now. I mean, look at us having a pretty much like a seminar online. It's the most enthusing thing. I had my first conference, a conference I organized, I had it physically in 2020. And this year's edition was supposed to be another physical experience. But then because of the COVID-19 and all the protocols, we had it online. And after the conference, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the new life. That's what we're having. How do we now ensure that we can reposition our capacity? It is now time. This is now that what is pretty much staring us in the face is the need to begin to redefine the rules of engagement because they're fast changing. The rules of engagement in our places of work, the rules of engagement in our marriages, the rules of engagement in our parenting styles, the rules of engagement in our being, in our showing up, and how we give ourselves to the world that God has called us to impact. So as fast changing as the rules of engagement are, how do we ensure that we redefine the rules of engagement for which we show up, for which we be? And that's why I'm going to talk about the reinvention. How do we begin to speak reinvention of ourselves? How do we begin to reinvent ourselves? Reinventing the wheels of our lives, such that whether it was in whatever century when they were using wood, you are able to constantly tweak yourself and improve yourself with time to show up strong, to show up with your genius, a genius that only you carry. So reinventing, pretty much to invent means to conceive, to design, to discover, to envision again or anew, to remake or make over in a different form, to bring back, to revive. That's what it means to reinvent. So how are we reinventing ourselves? What are we doing to make us a better version of ourselves daily? It's very important at first that we understand that who we have become, I mentioned that earlier and I'll say it again, who we have become is largely connected to our peculiar experiences in different environments, many of which were created by what we always saw, what we always heard, and what we always experienced. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you say something and, I mean, this has happened to me several times. I say something and I hear my mother's voice in my voice. I was raised by a single mother. I lost my father when I was 7. I was last of 5. So I had a firm-handed mother. My mother was like 6 men. I had a firm-handed mother. So you know how it is where the voice of my mother was the beginning of wisdom before I became born again. It was the beginning. So when you hear the voice in the back of your head, and you just focus, right? And then growing up into an adult and becoming a mother, I am speaking and I hear my mother's voice. And of course, there are many things you want to say. Oh, yes, like I said, my mother was very firm-handed. Do I regret her firm-handedness? No, I am grateful for it because it has made me the woman I am today. Are there things I would change differently with my children? Yes. But are there principles that I'll hold on to firmly from her? Yes. Because I've seen those principles work for me. So while I will be more communicative and I will be more forward, I will be more open to possibilities and discussions, I will also be able to hold on to some principles that work. But I'm saying that to say that now that is a perspective because that is what I know. So the ability now to come to the place where I question and ask myself, is this the best thing there is or is there another? The reason I will not go hook, line, and sinker with how I was raised is because I have been able to sorry about that. Okay. I was saying, I have been able to question, come to the place to question, to say, this is what worked. What would I wish was different? What do I wish was better? This is me now. What can I do better? Because you can only function up to the level of your awareness. In our parlance, level of your awareness. So in order to improve awareness, you have to question and study and question and ask yourself those questions that typically many people don't ask themselves. Why do I talk the way I talk? Why do I dress the way I dress? Why do I behave the way I behave? Many times we do not know it's unconscious programming. And if you do not dig to the root of the programming so that you know what you are daily living for and what you're daily dying for, you will be running someone else's script, get to the end of your life and find out that you have expended your life living someone else's script and never got to live yours. And I'll tell a story about how I got to love red. Just chip that in a bit. I was trying to track. I remember that when I was just all about red and all about red, I mean, my wedding was like, someone said it was like a shrine, interestingly, because it was all red and white and like silver. And I just loved red so much. So I sat down one day and asked myself, what is this love for red about? Where did it come from? I remember as a child, I used to love pink. I didn't always love red. But right now, I love red. Rather, I didn't love red. Red wasn't even in the picture. But right now, I love red so much and I abhor pink. I abhorred pink so much that while I was still single, I told myself that no matter what happens, someone says they can't hear me. Can you hear me, please? Can you hear me, please? Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, very clear.
Loud and clear.
Yes, can hear you.
Yeah, clear.
Okay. I was asking myself, how did this love for red come? And I started to do a soul search. So first, I took a picture with an Indian, a friend, a fellow chorister who is married to an Indian. And it was Thanksgiving. I was putting on a red lace. And a friend of mine just commented, I took a picture with it and posted it on social media. And she said, oh, which other color would Steph wear if not red? And I laughed. And then I was trying to track, how did I start loving this red? Because one of the things I've been doing over the past 4 years is to question my pattern so that I can understand my programming, so that I know when to nip a negative programming in the board and reprogram myself. Because as human beings, we're all programs. It's either you're writing your script or someone else is writing it. So how well do you know yourself enough to know whether the values you hold on to so strongly, the beliefs you hold on to so strongly, are they yours such that you're willing to live and die for them? Or are they one that were passed on over to you? Oh, we have always been like that. Oh, that is how it, or for some reason you have never just stopped to question why. So you are running with a script that is not yours. You are acting out a movie that you're not aware of. And then while I was going down, I remembered, I just saw the lady in her pink sari and I'm like, oh, I wish I had that sari in red. She was wearing an Indian sari, this Indian sari. And we took the picture together. So looking at the picture again, I'm like, oh, I wish I had this sari in red. And I just had a eureka moment. I just remembered how my love for red started. Growing up, I always watched Indian movies, and many of us, we grew up with Indian movies. And the major fights I used to have with my mother growing up was, why weren't you just an Indian? Or why wasn't daddy just an Indian so that I would have long hair, long lashes, and big eyes, right? And it was always that my best friends in primary school were Indians. And I look, I was like, okay, since I'm not Indian, I hope to marry an Indian someday. And I was looking forward to the Indian man that I will marry, and looking forward, most importantly, to wearing my red sari, because that is the wedding outfit of Indians, of Indian women. And at that moment, I just tracked where it started from. But I had lived all these years. Now, this is from primary school. I discovered at age 36 that the reason I love red was because of an unconscious programming of always watching Indian films that I never tracked. And over the years, I just said, oh, I love it just because it's this, it's just because of that. I look for coping mechanisms to cover why I loved it. So after I discovered it, I said, okay, I used to love pink before. How come I no longer love pink? And I started tracking back. When was the last time, and why did I start hating pink? And I remembered my father died when I was 7, on my 7th birthday. He took me to a supermarket then in Warri and said, pick anything you want. And I picked a pink shirt and a blue pair of jeans. That was on the 12th of April. He died on the 18th of April. For every time I wore that pink shirt, I remembered him. For every time I wanted to wear the pink shirt, I was 7. I felt like his ghost was coming around. So I started abhorring the shirt. Now, what I am telling you is what I discovered in 2016. Because I went back to ask why, to question my patterns. And I realized that the hatred for pink, when I was saying if I have a girl child, I'll never buy her pink. It's too girly. It's too it's too soft. I'll buy her purple. I'll buy her brown. No. It wasn't because it was girly. It was because I was covering a fear that I wasn't aware of. A fear that my father's ghost was going to come through anything pink. And it made me hate pink so much. And to start breaking it, the first thing, as soon as I discovered, I said, no, nothing is going to take control over me. I went on Jumia and I bought myself a pink pair of sneakers. When they delivered it, my husband said, wow, pink. Really, even him was shocked because he knows I wouldn't have touched pink with a long pole. But I decided to begin to break patterns that were not healthy. So just to let you know that many things, and that's just some, there are many things we do that are actually unconscious programming. And as human beings, you don't respond always from a place of knowledge. You respond from a place of your programming. You respond from a place of your unconscious programming, because that is the thing that your body is used to, your body has been created with. Rather, your body has absorbed over time, over experiences of sight, of sound, of environment. So one of the things I want you to do today is question, what program am I running? Because we're like computers. We are the output being the fruit and the product of parental, educational, relational, and societal input, which was the seed or investment, and an outcome that has impacted us either negatively or positively and inherently defined our identity. So we want to ask ourselves, what really is your identity? What really is your identity? Now, identity by Wikipedia says is the quality of your beliefs, your personality, your looks, or your expression that make a person, which can be positive or destructive, right? So thinking of all that now, putting all that in perspective, for us to, let me take this bar out here. If we're putting all of it in perspective, your qualities, which are your talents, your potentials, your beliefs, which is your principles, your perspectives, your personality, which is your behavior and your character, your looks, your expressions, your appearance, your confidence, your self-worth, they are all shaped and developed and enhanced in and by your environment, whether it's a physical environment or a mindset, which is a mental environment. So your environments may not always be physical. Sometimes it's a mental environment, which is why people always talk about changing your mindset, right? So to reinvent yourself, your reinvention will require that you redesign, you rediscover, or you remake your current identity in order to redefine new qualities, new beliefs, a new personality, new looks, and how you show up, with a goal to carve out a new identity that you're willing to run with, to live for, and to die for. So let's talk reinvention, right? Talking about environments, the things you always see, the things you always hear, the things you experience. After some time, they will what? Determine your beliefs, your values, and your culture. And after they have done that, they will also determine your behavior, how you behave, your habits, and your lifestyle. And as a function of that, it will craft your identity. So if you want to change your identity, you need to go back to your behavior and check it. If you want to change your behavior, your habits, and your lifestyle, you need to go back to the beliefs that created those behaviors, the values that were the bedrock upon which those behaviors and habits were formed, the culture that you held on to so strongly. And for you to be able to change your beliefs, your values, and your culture, you have to go back to the environment that created those things, the environment that programmed those things, and intentionally change them. So you have to now live a life of constant unprogramming, reprogramming. Where you see negative programming, then you must unprogram and reprogram in line with the vision that you are chasing after, in line with the goal that you need to achieve for yourself. Okay? So let's take it a bit further, talking about environments now. In summary, your environment is what determines or creates your sight, your sound, and your experiences. Your sight, your sound, and experiences influence and shape your perceptions, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your values, your beliefs, and your culture. And those things they're now the ones that produce and lead to your responses and how you react to life, your behavior and your habits, your outlook to life, your personality, your decisions, the results that you get, your choices, and all of that will eventually determine your life's outcome. So at the end of the day, the major question is, what kind of life outcome do I want? Based on the life outcome you want, you go back to your environment and determine it. Now, you may not be responsible for the past environments that have shaped you to where you are. Oh, but you are responsible for the kind of environment you will now choose and intentionally create to get the kind of outcome that you want. So it's pretty much a thing about choices and making choices every day to determine a mental environment and to determine a physical environment. It is always a choice. It's always a choice. So let's talk self-reinvention. I pretty much broke self-reinvention into 7 phases. Now, the first one is to self-discovery, to reinvent yourself. Who am I? How am I? What do I do? Why do I do what I do? What am I chasing after? What do I want? Why do I want what I want? How do I achieve it? What is my purpose? I beg your pardon. That's what is my purpose? That's the first thing, self-discovery. When you have walked that path of self-discovery, you go to the next one, which is self-awareness. You now become aware of yourself. You're now conscious of yourself. So this is where you now make the decision. Do I want to remain the same or do I want to change? Now, that's an answer that only you can respond to. If you want to remain the same, that's fine. You stay where you are. But if you want to change, then you set a goal for what you want to change to. When you have set a goal, then you move to the next phase. It is self-appreciation. Many of us don't appreciate. Appreciate how far you have come. Recognize your journey. Please mute, please. Please mute. Sorry, it's a bit distracting. Recognize your journey and be grateful for it thus far. Appreciate the things that you don't have control over. Be grateful for the things that you have control over. Acknowledge them. Acknowledge your capabilities. Acknowledge your potentials. Appreciate yourself and appreciate how far you have come. Many times, because we're looking at what other people are achieving and what is happening everywhere else, we fail to appreciate how far we have come. You have done well. Tap yourself on your chest, say you try. Say, this is what I have come. I have come thus far. I'm still alive. This is what I have achieved. Regardless of what I have faced right now, regardless of what I have discovered, I still try. When you have appreciated yourself, then you move to the 4th phase. And the 4th phase is where you commit to self-improvement. Now, this is where the programming, the unprogramming, and the reprogramming is. This is where you ask yourself, what do I need to start doing to become? Remember, you set a goal on level 2. You then ask yourself, what do I need to start doing to achieve the goal that I want to achieve? So what do I need to learn? What do I need to, is it new knowledge, new skill, new abilities? Do I need to begin to look at things from a different perspective? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to unlearn? Do I need to unlearn beliefs and values and behaviors and habits and patterns? What do I need to improve? What do I need to relearn? Do I need to improve skills, beliefs, values, behaviors, habits, and patterns? And after you have gone through that, you go to the fifth phase. You apply yourself. Now, this is where many times people are afraid to apply. You have improved yourself. Okay, when you repair a car, what do? You test it, Abby. You test it to know whether the mechanic has done a good job. You repair the car, you take it on a test drive, right? Apply yourself. Engage yourself to see whether what you set out to do in your self-improvement stage has worked. But what stops many of us from engaging is fear, because we suddenly face fear. There's now the thing of, what if I fail? What if they don't accept me? What if they don't like me? How am I sure it's my type they're looking for? And you know this, with this COVID now, you know, it's only rich people who they know their type. If he's rich, he's a one's boy, he has a godfather. We just look for every reason to talk ourselves down, forgetting that you are ensnared by the words of your mouth. And that whatever you say with your mouth, your life will embrace. So when you have nothing positive to say about yourself, excuse me, but keep your mouth shut. And never for any second speak negative about yourself. It is better to be quiet than to say a negative word because of a time in season where your emotions go haywire. Because many times we can't undo the things that we have undone in a place of emotional outburst. That is where you need emotional intelligence to know how to keep your mouth under lock and key so that you don't mess yourself up with your own hands. Zig Ziglar says the acronym of fear is forget everything and run, or face everything and ride. And I chose to add to that, figure out everything and relaunch. I have a slide that talks about that later on, so I'll just move to that. So when you have engaged and faced your fears, you take the risk, carefully calculated, you take the risk nonetheless. And when you have taken the risk, when you have applied yourself, what do? You evaluate yourself, self-evaluation. Now you assess your results, appraise your outcomes against your set goal in stage 2. So depending on your outcome, if you didn't do well, you appreciate yourself, go back to stage 3, appreciate yourself, commit to self-improvement again, apply yourself again, and evaluate yourself again. Go back in line to do it again. And if you evaluate yourself and you did exceptionally well, if you met the target of the goal that you set, then fantastic, you proceed to the level of self-mastery. Now you are an expert on your current level. Now, this is the place where you make the decision again. Do I want to remain the same or do I want to change? If you choose to change, then you set a new goal and you proceed to the next level and repeat the process entirely all over again to define the identity that you want. So this, for example, is a level in primary 1. You have reached self-mastery in primary 2. You now tell yourself, do I want to stay at this self-mastery level of primary 1, or do I want to go and be a baby again and start all over in primary 2 on a new level? On a new level, because you want to increase awareness. And when increasing awareness, you have to be ready to go low. Because the fact that you were high on the previous level of awareness, on a new level of awareness, you're going to be low. Now, you have these 7 steps from self-discovery to self-awareness, self-appreciation, self-improvement, self-application, self-evaluation, self-mastery. The process through this journey is what I have called self-re-engineering. And some ask, why self-re-engineering? I'll tell you why. You must have heard of business re-engineering, yes? So while as an HR consultant for the period I committed to that, I was always finding ourselves doing business re-engineering for organizations. Organizations spend millions year in, year out. Maybe they didn't do that in 2020 because of the pandemic, but they spend millions going through business reengineering process, because they want to be able to know how to position themselves so that they can determine what kind of future they want, and they want to lead the market, or at least let us match the market up to this point, or lead the market, but let us never lag at any point. Who are the people, who are our competitors? Where do we have strengths? Where do we have weaknesses? What are the opportunities that are available to us, and what could be a potential threat, whether within or without? Organizations, which are structures that are run by individuals, human beings, do that, and then get human beings to run that program to ensure that the organization, that the structure works. But it baffles me how, as human beings, we do not do a self-re-engineering. So the business reengineering process, pretty much, it was originally pioneered in the 1990s as a business management strategy tool that focuses on analyzing, designing your workflows, business processes within an organization, with the aim to help your organization fundamentally rethink how you do your work and radically restructure your organization in order to improve your customer service, your operational costs, and then cut operational costs and become a world-class competitor. That's your goal. That's the goal for business reengineering. Right? Now, business engineering process is also known as business process redesign, or your business transformation, or your business process change management. The entire thing is to be able to define an improved business outcome, right? But then, having done this, I came to the point of, okay, so pretty much this is the fourth cycle, the four-way cycle of your BPR, business process reengineering. You identify your processes. You review and update and analyze as is. And then you design your to be. And after designing your to be, you test and implement your to be. When you have tested and implemented it, then you cast it in stone as what will be our new identity moving forward. And then that's a constant cycle. When next you think there's an improvement, you go back to what is our identity now? How do we review and update our analysis as we are? What do we design? What do we want to be? How do we design where we are going to? Oh yeah, let's test and implement it, and that our new to be, and let's cast it in stone, right? But then what now is the self-re-engineering process cycle? It's an 8-week process that uses the iSWOT pie model to enable you spot and fully optimize you. So it is the process of taking you through identifying identity, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and gets you to predict, to implement, and to evaluate self, so that you can now redefine an identity that you're now carefully running with and carefully engaging for self-fulfillment and for societal impact. Okay, now to facilitate this workflow, I created a product called Spot Me. I'll talk about Spot Me later. But in the process of reinventing ourselves, one of the things I would like us to do, when I was having a physical session, I would pretty much have loved all of us to put our 2 hands over our face, to cover our face, and ask yourself, what mask am I wearing? What mask am I wearing? Whose identity am I wearing? And how do I get to the place where I can take off that mask and be the genius with the authenticity and the originality that I have been created by the Creator to be? So pretty much it's a thing of doing this. Normally when I'm having a full session where I get masks for the class and get everybody to wear the mask. And it's always an experience, because you see people literally breaking down when they find out that I've actually been wearing this mask, but this is not me. Living as an illusion, living as less than yourself, living as nothing compared to who God beautifully created, awesomely created, fearfully created. So how do we get to that place where we are able to identify ourselves, discover who we are, so that we can define or redefine who we want to be, and then optimize ourselves? Optimize ourselves. That's part of getting your identity, and then your strengths. How do you identify your strengths, develop them, and engage them resourcefully? For weaknesses, how do you identify your weaknesses, manage them effectively, and build potential strengths for them? Now, this will make me like, I like to use the story a lot, the analogy of Achilles. I mean, we all know this story about, this is Achilles' heels, right? The arrow, we call it strange arrow, strange bullet, as they call it where it comes from, that hit his heel. He was a demigod, they said. He was impenetrable. He went to war and he slayed hundreds of men, according to the Greek mythology. But one day a straight arrow hit his ankle. It was said that when he was born, his mother, who was earthly, had him for a god, so he was a demigod. But because the mother didn't wanted him to be immortal, she dipped him into a portion. But when she was dipping him to the portion that will make him immortal, she held him by the heel. So pretty much after dipping him, I guess she didn't think that, okay, let me dip like this and hold the other leg, then hold him by the hand or something and dip both legs. So it was said that the portion didn't cover that. So that was his weakness. So just using that as an analogy, how much of your weakness do you know? How much of your weakness are you aware of? Many people have lost relationships, have lost jobs, have lost opportunities because of a weakness that showed itself at a time where they were supposed to be getting their glory. Simply because they didn't know how to nip it in the bud and build a potential strength out of it or manage it. Because they say the strength that you carefully harness and develop will open doors of opportunity for you in the future. The weaknesses that you don't carefully manage, identify, and tackle them will become threats, pose as threats that could pull you down at the height of your career, at the height of your glory, at the height of your greatness, simply because of a habit, of a behavior, of a practice that wasn't nipped in the bud. So part of the reinvention now is walking this path of what are my weaknesses? And asking yourself those true questions. What do I need to do to ensure that this weakness doesn't limit me based on where I am going to? Having seen and defined where you are going to. And the next thing, what are the opportunities that are available to you? Opportunities are like doors. Sometimes they're windows. How do I ensure that when a door of opportunity comes, I do not let it go? How do you get to the point where you can seize the opportunities that you see? Regardless of the anxiety and the fear that you feel, regardless of how it is that, some people say, it's not your type that wants to knock on that door, my friend, shift. Who are you? How dare you? You're not worth it. Who do you know in this industry? Where are you from? Who's your father? What's your name? How much people have? What's your race? What's your color? What do you speak? English, French, Yoruba? What do you speak? It's not your type. But then, are you at the point where when a door of opportunity comes, you are ready you have prepared for it so that when it comes, you can spot it and seize it? When people say, I was speaking to someone today, and it's something I always say, when someone says, when you ask me, what are you going to do? When I get to that bridge, I'll cross it. And my question is, what if you get there and there is no bridge? What will you do? We have this thing of pushing to later. Instead of us to think and strategize for the future, we push to later because we do not want to be inconvenienced by the mental process of strategizing for yourself. We can strategize for organizations and structures, but strategizing for self, which is what self-re-engineering is all about, is what we don't commit ourselves to do. So that I can prepare based on where I have seen in my mind's eyes that I want to go to as the vision I want to achieve or the goal I want to achieve for myself. I prepare. And when an opportunity comes, I have spotted it. That door, I'm going to go through you. And I seize that opportunity. And what are the threats that you can identify? You can evaluate them. And you can now decide, how can I rise above this threat? Or how can I withstand this threat? But no matter what, I will not cower to this threat. What is that thing that poses as a threat that I am willing to ensure that I build capacity enough to withstand it no matter how long it stands, or to rise above it, but never cower to it? So this is what I was talking about, just made a flyer on it. What are your numbers? What are your numbers? Do you forget everything and run? Do you face everything and rise? Or do you figure out everything and relaunch? And I like to tell the story of David and Goliath, right? Let's come back here. I like to use the analogy of the army. When They go to battle. So when I see battle, I like those battles of those days where it was sweat for sweat, fist for fist, skin for skin. I said those are the real warriors, not this one that they will use what do you call it, drone to shoot someone. Piao, no, go fist to fist, man to man. Yes, that's the real war. That's the real war. Those are the real warriors. You know, the people of those days. Yeah, just kidding though. But then when there is a war, the only reason why you will retreat, there are two things. When you engage in battle, if you, for those of you that have watched maybe 300 or Thor or those movies, those, what they call, what's the name of that movie again? The Lord of the Rings, where you have a lot of people engaging in battles. I'm sure just having a pictorial experience moment of it. It gets to a point where they realize that, these people are killing our men, and they go, retreat, 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 right? So when you forget everything and run, it's two things. Reach. Yes?
I sent you a couple of messages. If you could just
wow.
messages. Yeah.
Okay, I took that off my screen. I'll be rounding up. Okay, I'm rounding up. I'm just saying I took it off the screen so it wouldn't blur the page. That's fine. I'm seeing that.
Okay.
Thank you. I've seen that now. Okay, so when it's saying retreat, retreat, it's pretty much saying we can't handle this. We can't deal with this. Let us retreat. There's a difference between retreating and surrendering. When you retreat, when you surrender, that means they've taken us. They don't run. They just lift up a white whatever and say, take us over. That means they have surrendered. But when you retreat, it could be something else. Retreating could be that these people are stronger than us. Let us go back and recalibrate. The Bible says, can you enter a strong man's house and take the strong man's possession without first binding the strong man? For you to bind the strong man, you have to have a power that is higher than the strong man. So you have to be a stronger man. For you to be a stronger man, you have to have capacity. You have to have competence. So that is what made me say you need to go back, figure out everything and relaunch. Figure out how you can build capacity. So you face everything and rise if you have capacity and you have competence. But when you don't, you step back and figure out everything to relaunch. And that was what I believe David did. I do not believe that David did not have fear. I believe that David was afraid, but his courage was stronger than his fear. Because he said, this is a challenge. This challenge in front of me looks like something I have dealt with before. It looks like that bear that I killed, and it looked like that lion that I killed. If I could do it then, I can do it now. You need to be able to remember your victories of the past. If you could win before, you can win again. So regardless of what life has thrown, either through the corona or through whatever it is, or through a job loss, or through a marriage challenge, or through a family challenge, or through financial challenge, remember your moments of victory. Because life is going to be boring if there were no valleys and mountains. What makes the valley relevant is the mountains. If there were no valleys, life would be an entire plain. So if you see yourself in a valley, have a mental picture that for there to be a valley, there must be a mountain somewhere. So you don't give up in the valley. Rather, you build. I believe that David had competence, capacity, and then was courageous because he knew he had competence, he had capacity, and then he had God. That the competence and the capacity that I have built, I can engage it. If I could do it for that, I can engage it for this, God being on my side. And then it's easy to have courage to charge on. So having all of that, how do you now come to the point where you can socially reposition yourself for impact? It's pretty much now having reinvented yourself, realign yourself with your vision, and give yourself to your world. What do you see? Your life cannot experience what your mind has not conceived, what your mind has not seen and embraced, so that you can now pull it from your mind and birth it. Pull it from the thought phase into the reality phase. So you have to begin to set goals for yourself. Set goals for where do I want to go? What do I want to achieve? And in part of being able to give yourself, you have to, part of being able to impact your society, you have to first know yourself. Part of knowing yourself is all that we've talked about. And then when you have known yourself, you choose yourself. Choose the self that you want to be recognized for, the self that you want to be known for when they're putting your epitaph, the self that you want to be appreciated for, and then give that self to your world. Right? Give that self to your world. I'm just going to rush through this. Knowing yourself will require that you are emotionally literate about yourself and that you're able to name your emotions per time, recognize your patterns, recognize who you are. Think right about yourself. Take the right thoughts that will give the kind of outcomes that you require for where you are going to. Be able to navigate your emotions effectively so that you can give a fuller self. Whoever you're giving to your world is one that you have carefully thought out and chosen. And most importantly, when you're giving yourself, giving your heart and your head, giving it in sync and in alignment to the world so that you are not just living fulfilled in yourself, but you are impacting society. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to share with us. But in these times, it's very important that you learn how to reroute. I don't know how many of us, there's nobody that has not used Google Maps before. Has Google Maps ever thrown you off balance and taking you somewhere that you didn't tell it to take you to? When it happens, what does it do? It says rerouting, looking for the next available route. But how is it that when life throws us against the wall, maybe we'll lose something, we'll lose a loved one, or we get heartbroken or something, we just say, I will just die here, there's no way for me. Why don't you stand up and reroute? At every time, you have to be able to reroute and tell yourself, I will never give up until I win. And even if I don't win, I will finish strong. I will finish strong. Learn to reroute. You hit a brick, reroute. You reroute. You relationship, reroute. How else can I engage myself to ensure that I am constantly giving the best of myself to the rest of my world? So through all of this, regardless of everything, wherever it is you find yourself, be mindful, guard your mind with everything you have. Manage your thoughts by checking what you feed your mind with. Maintain your focus on and do the things that give you the most joy, contentment, hope, faith, and peace. Laugh a lot. Laugh. Surround yourself with people that remind you of the genius that you are, that put you in the place to be able to laugh. Laugh with yourself. Laugh for yourself. Laugh. Laughter is soothing. It heals. Be helpful. Be supportive to yourself and to those around you. Exercise. Many people do not exercise. And the excuse is there's traffic or I have to go to work. You need to be healthy for the 80-year-old self you want to meet. For the 90-year-old self you want to meet, it requires that you do something to keep you in shape. You don't have to go to the gym, just walk. You can just walk, but make sure you take good care of yourself and that you exercise. Dance if exercise is too much. Just play music and just dance. Dance with your spouse, with your husband, we'll dance with your children. I've not done it in bits. I need to start again. But every Friday I used to dance with the children. Just put on music and all of what myself and my two sons would do dancing competition, right? Just dance and do things that will make you happy and that will put your mind in a place of hope, joy, contentment, and peace. And above all, stay in close connection with your maker because in him you have unfathomable peace. And maintain contact with people that can help you keep your mind in the right perspective. Get a coach. That's why I am here and that's why I do what I do. So that was Spot Me I talked to us about. You can get Spot Me on my website at stepfred.com under product. Spot Me is pretty much the self-re-engineering tool. That is what it is. Comprises of an audio and a hard copy or a PDF, an editable PDF, which you can actually use to carry out your self-re-engineering process. It is a phenomenal tool. It's a phenomenal. The feedback has been phenomenal. It's a phenomenal tool and it's something you should get. And then I have a discount for as many as want to have one-on-one coaching with me, or you want to engage my service to coach you or coach your team to move you from where you are to where you ultimately desire to be. Most importantly, keep hope alive and remember that impossible does not exist. But just try and tweak it a little bit and say, I am possible. Can I hear you? Or let it be the last chat you send to me. Just send your chat and say, I am possible. 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 I am possible because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I am possible. Yes, keep it coming. Keep it coming. I am possible. Just say, I am possible. I am possible. I am possible. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. The one who has given me the ability, the capacity, the genius, the excellence, the one who has given that to me is able, very well able to make me all that he has created me to be. And on this note, I say thank you. I deeply appreciate you. I thank you for the honor, for the privilege, which I do not take for granted, to be here. God bless you, God keep you, and God cause his face to shine upon you. Thank you so much for the privilege again. God bless you.